Welcome, and thank you all so much for coming out tonight to show your support for each and every one of us here, your neighbors, your family, your friends. That's what this is all about, is really rallying together. I'm probably going to say some ums. I'm nervous. This is, while I do facilitation for part of my job, this feels somehow way more important than that. And so I'm just really nervous. So bear with me, okay? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Suzanne. I have lived in the Sawtooth for a little over a decade now. When I first came up, I lived in Delaney for a couple years, and then I moved over to Norman Wells. Like everyone here, I wear a variety of hats. I am employed by one of the biggest employers in the territory, but that's not the only thing that I am. You know, I'm a sister, I'm an auntie, I am a friend, and most importantly in this circumstance, I'm a community member. And in that right, we all need to stand up and speak what we know the truth is to save this community. So I encourage you as we go through tonight to please think about the stories, how this is affecting you, and hopefully you'll be willing to share some of those stories. We do have some that people sent us that weren't able to attend tonight that were videoed, so we're going to share those. We have a couple emails that people have asked us to read, and we have some territorial leaders that are going to speak as well. A little note on this coming together. This really just came together organically. I feel like it stemmed from a letter that I wrote, and I got a lot of feedback on that and realized that a lot of people were feeling the same way I was. It made me realize that our strength is in our stories. I feel like I'm going to cry. Sorry. And what comes from the heart. And we need to share these stories so that people outside of here understand what we're living and what we're experiencing and the fears, the real fears we have right now. And again, in speaking out, I think it's important to remember that there's no shame in what we're talking about. This is something that's been imposed on us. So the fact that I can no longer afford to pay my bills is not something that we should feel shame about. So please don't let that stop you from speaking. That's sort of my initial reaction was, oh my God, I can't afford to pay my bills. I'm embarrassed. But this is something that's being done to us. This is not something that we signed up for. So again, please keep that in mind as we move the night forward. We're hoping that you feel like this is a safe space where you can share your stories. And in that, I'm going to actually hand over to Josh, who is with Breaking Ice Productions, who is going to be filming tonight and recording stories, and so he's going to talk about sort of how that's going to play out tonight.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Ferguson. I own and operate Breaking Ice Productions here in town. Some of you probably saw me on the podcast or just walking around. So we're filming tonight. The intention is to capture the footage and the stories that people are saying so that we can use this within advocacy efforts to tell the story. If you kind of read something on paper or see a statistic, it's one thing, but it's another whole other thing to look into someone's face when they're telling you how scared they are, what kind of things that they're facing this winter, if they have to choose to eat or to heat their house. So people who are decision makers need to see faces and hear stories from the people who are telling them. So if you feel comfortable in the later part of the evening, we'll have the opportunity to come up here in front of the community and tell your story. That can be intimidating. So no pressure. But We also have in the kitchen a separate private booth set up to come and tell your story. And this is, I think, can be an extremely powerful tool if we get enough people to do it. I'm going to be standing by the door. If I'm not standing by the door, we're probably in there with somebody, so don't come in. And I would really urge and encourage everyone who is willing to talk to come talk to me, and we can just do 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever. If you are uncomfortable having your face on the internet, but still would like to share your story, we'll still film, but I'll make sure to blur it out. We'll just say, hey, don't use my face at the start of the piece. So throughout the evening, I'll be over there. Please, please, please come and see me. As many people as we can get, the more powerful this will be. And the intention is to collate them in one place so that people can, and government can see what is happening here. So I'm also hoping to facilitate another time where we can capture stories. So if there's not enough time tonight to capture your story, we will set up a similar private booth, maybe in the town office or something. We'll figure that out later, or at my office. And you can come and do it then. But let's take advantage of both times. And if you happen to come up here to speak, please stand in front of the mic so that we can capture the audio. Thank you so much for attending. It means the world. Yeah, let's bring it home.
Thank you very much, Josh, for explaining that. And one of the other hats I wear that I forgot to mention is that I'm also the Sawtooth Beaufort Delta rep for RVP for the Northern Territories Federation of Labor. So I will let the president speak to that a bit more, but it is one of the agencies that helps protect workers' rights in the Northwest Territories. It is not strictly union affiliated. It is for workers that are union as well as non-unionized workers. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to them for sponsoring us tonight, for paying for the dinner, and they're actually going to be doing some partnering, but I'll let you talk to that as well. Thank you, and please welcome Sarah Jane Dempster, the president of Northern Territories Federation of Labor. Thanks.
Thank you so much to everybody for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Suzanne, for getting the ball rolling on this with your powerful letter. So for anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Sarah Jane Dempster. I am the president of the Northern Territories Federation of Labor, or the NTFL, if you hear it called that instead. For anybody that's unfamiliar with our work, we are dedicated to protecting the rights and the protections and the well-being of workers and families across the Northwest Territories and Nunavut. We do represent both territories. So our mission is to ensure that everyone in the communities has the support they need to live and work with dignity and security. And today we're here to address the escalating crisis in Norman Wells that's threatening the very dignity and security that we are trying to protect. Heating fuel costs are continuing to skyrocket, and residents here are facing decisions that no Canadian should ever have to make. Whether to keep their home warm or put food on the table. Whether to pay for heating fuel or cover other essential bills. And now, with the news of a potential 25% increase in power costs, this crisis is becoming even more severe. How much more strain can we place on families who are already pushed to the breaking point? While this community has been resilient, the support from our government has been far from adequate. In response to the home heating crisis, the territorial government recently announced a $150,000 donation to the Norman Wells Food Bank. And while any support is appreciated, let's be clear, this contribution does not come close to addressing the magnitude of the problem. People need reliable heat and affordable power, not short-term Band-Aids. This $150,000 donation may provide some immediate relief, but it's an embarrassing response to a crisis that demands substantial, systemic solutions. The Northern Territories Federation of Labor, along with every resident here tonight, is calling on our territorial government to provide real, meaningful support. We need targeted subsidies to offset these heating and power costs. We need price controls to prevent the drastic spikes that are forcing families into financial ruin. We're also calling on the federal government to recognize the unique challenges of living in the Arctic. and to deliver long-term funding and policy changes that ensure access to affordable, stable energy for all northern communities. This is a call for leadership and for compassion from our territorial and federal governments. They need to understand this isn't about short-term fixes. It's about creating a sustainable future where no one has to fear freezing in their own home because of unaffordable bills. Today, we are standing here together to say we are not asking for charity. We are demanding fairness, dignity, and basic human rights. Northern communities, thank you. Northern communities deserve better, and we will continue to press our leaders in Yellowknife and in Ottawa until they deliver real solutions. But change won't come from the words of any one organization or one individual. It'll come from all of us, speaking up and refusing to let this crisis continue. We are standing here together tonight to say that no community, no family in Canada should face this level of hardship to stay warm. Thank you for your resilience, for your courage, and for your willingness to stand here united. Together, we will continue to press for action, for dignity, and for the respect that this community deserves. Masi. We do have a number of people tonight that are on, I don't want to say a speaker's list, but if I could ask your wonderful Mayor, Frank, to come up and just say a couple of words. Frank, please.
Thank you. Good evening. As you know, I'm not very famous for a couple of words, so I'll try and be brief. First of all, very sincere thanks to the sponsor of this event. It has certainly pulled our community together just by looking at the many faces here. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to try and keep my remarks fairly brief and just bring you up to stage where I think we are right now. My role over the last while has been to get the message out, to talk to folks in the federal government, to talk to the territorial government. And we kept running into roadblocks. We were able to meet with a lot of civil servants in Ottawa, but no ministers. They kept ducking us. So we went to the Senate, where we built up a working relationship a year ago when we were working on our behalf for accelerated the construction of the all-season highway, which more and more we need today. The folks in the Senate worked with us. Senator Anderson gave us her staff. They gave us their legal counsel and said, this is the process that you should follow to get what you need and to get it quickly. And that was that we would, as a community, declare a state of emergency for a humanitarian crisis. Council did that. MLA McNeely took that resolution to the territorial government. He met with ordinary MLAs. He met with cabinet ministers. He met with the premier. We did the same thing from the council. We went down and met with people as well and said, here's the simple process. Endorse our resolution and get it off to the federal government, because if you endorse it, it goes to the federal government, they have to help us. There's no way out of it. Somehow the NWT government dropped the ball. They never did endorse a resolution when the Legislative Assembly was sitting. Instead, a couple of cabinet ministers from Northwest Territories met with a couple of ministers from the federal government when they were in Yellowknife a few weeks ago. Then they wrote a very, very wimpy letter to the federal government requesting aid, which they knew they weren't going to get. Then we got an equally wimpy response from the Minister of Procurement from the federal government. So I would say right now, Since our initial ask to the NWT government was to go to the feds, and they did not do that, we did not ask the GNWT for a damn thing. We told them what to do to get it to Ottawa. They dropped the ball. So our next step is, this is a start, this is to go to rally, the petition is going full bore. I still think there's an opportunity for this government of the Northwest Territories to take a resolution to Ottawa, and there are rules and regulations where they will be able to support us. But because the NWT government did not endorse it, then I'm going to say put the whole damn bill on their back, because they didn't do the job that we allowed them to do and suggested that they do. Just one more thing, if I may. I came to listen, not to talk, and here I am. We're talking today about heating fuel. That is our crisis today. But I'm going to work with our new council, and I'm going to be looking to see all the costs we're incurring to fly our materials in, covered by some form of government. I'm talking about aviation fuel. I'm talking about diesel for vehicles. I'm talking about diesel for the power plant. I'm talking about gasoline, groceries. We should not be paying any of these damn costs. And that's the big fight. Today it is heating fuel. Tomorrow it's every other thing that we're flying in. We just cannot endure this. This community has got to pull together as we're doing tonight. Stay together. Collectively, we're going to win this damn fight. And I'll be up there leading you with my community council. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Frank. I know your leadership here is really appreciated. And I could ask your member of the Legislative Assembly, Danny McNeely. Danny's got a few words he'd like to share as well.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Susan, for your letter and your comforting words. And the resilience is seen here tonight, and I thank everybody for coming out and the media coverage that we're going to get, and also for the strong words from our mayor, which certainly keeps me motivated when I see and talk to Frank, and the many emails and texts and letters that I've received over the course of the last several weeks. Going back to this spring, the territorial government canceled the barge. And we were fortunate to have the air barge or Buffalo step up to the plate and saying, right here on terms, we'll be resupplying your region. So that, to some extent, was sort of a replacement for the marine barge. And I think this is going to be a continuous battle until you have funding secured for this all-season road. To give you a little bit of supporting comments to that, I was going back into my old files here. October the 28th, 2023, I wrote a letter with some pictures and people walking across the Hay River with rubber boots on, the tugboats getting stuck up in Providence. And in particular, there was a Vic Ingram that came here a year ago, and it struck a reef 12 miles upstream from Toledo. And the tugboat actually punctured the bottom. It was pushing over 1 million liters of fuel for here and 1.8 million liters of fuel and gasoline to Toledo. Had that happened on the barge, we could have had a catastrophe that is unbelievable. So those are just evidence to provide good arguments for your all-season road. And when I say my Sawtooth Nostradamus prediction of last year, and again this year, so I I received a letter from the Minister of ECC, along with everybody else in the Legislative Assembly, stating that the water survey level of Great Slave Lake went down by 1-2 meters. That's equivalent to 32 billion cubic meters of water. Can anybody guarantee me that we're going to get those levels through snow and the precipitation to support your barging season next year? So I sent that awareness out. It's a factual awareness, so it went out. I'll be emphasizing that to secure the funding necessary for this all-season road, which you've accomplished to the original plan and construction schedule in the neighborhood of 27%. So you got 27% in capital spent on that right away. We were successful back during my last term in 2015 to 2019 in securing $140 million to an application that was sent to the federal government underneath the Northern Trade Corridor funding. So because we lobbied and did some efforts in 2017, we were able to secure an announcement by both governments equivalent to $140 million in June of 2018. But we had an application to lobby. If I went to Ottawa tomorrow, they'll tell me, what are you talking about? You don't have an application from your territorial government. So that is currently being worked on. And there's a successful candidate or a firm that's been awarded the contract to produce that business case. So the business case, I'm hoping, would be done by Christmas, sent into the various federal programs to support the cost of building that road. Now we got a reason to lobby. So that's the plan moving ahead. Simultaneously, the environmental assessment is underway. That's going to be concluded this spring. And the report from the Mackenzie Valley Environmental Impact Review Board would be sitting on the minister's desk to get it signed off. And the terms, conditions of that review would be incorporated into the construction schedule. By comparison, my assumption on the schedule is 3 to 4 years to get it built from Christina Creek to Fort Wrigley. If you look at the Watee Road, you look at the Inuvik Road, Inuvik to Tuck Road, that schedule is different on geography, but the timeline of construction, I feel comfortable in saying 3 to 4 years. So we've got to survive for 3 to 4 years. How do we do that? We engage the supports needed to minimize the cost of today's living. Today's living is just a start, and we've made accomplishments. When we first found out that the fuels are going to be flown in, July 23rd, fuels were being flown in, Jet A in particular, our sked rates went up by 45 points. So from then on, the territorial government starts being made aware of the situation, and fuel is being flown in. So I met with, I took the liberty in trying to find out facts so you know what the situation is and how to remedy that situation. So I met with the company, Buffalo. How much are you hauling? What is your contract? 1.9 million liters, but it varies. So I went to Imperial, said the same thing. What's your cost? Because you're going to be passed on that cost. The customer always pays. It's going to be anywhere from $3 to $3.50 if you do the math on 1.9 million liters of fuel and gas. It's actually 400,000 liters of gas and 1.5 million of diesel fuel. And the math tells me, okay, your problem is going to be a financial one for a total of 6.6 million. I don't want to pay that. I don't want anybody to pay that. So, okay. So we had some strategy sessions with the town and the territorial government. So the business case of that solution really progressed from that point. Meanwhile, I'm sharing emails back and forth with not only with our government officials and colleagues, but with our member of parliament. And I really support the aggression showed by the mayor and council to say we got to do something. Okay, what is that something? So we gathered together and published a factual proposal on the situation, and we marketed that. You campaign it and you show it. So we met with the Premier and Cabinet, some regular MLAs, but commitments were made, so all 19 could not be there at one point in time on September the 19th or September the 9th. September the 19th, I issued an invitation to everybody that wears a leadership hat in this region, as well as the Legislative Assembly, to come here and talk to people. And let's have a high cost of living conference and talk to the residents, have an open dialogue. And you can really hear the problem that is impacting that household by doing that, but nobody showed up. Anyways, that didn't really stop me. And I guess our advocacy is shown by your determination. And your determination, when I say yours or we, it's all of us together. I'm just a mouthpiece on your behalf. But as of the original pricing, let's just take home heating fuel. September the 30th, your unit price was $1.90 a liter. It went up to over $5. That's an increase of 176%. And the mouthpiece that we are reduced it down to 56% a month later. So we are doing something right. It's no longer the original price tag of over $5, which is good. And I share that to say, residents, please have faith in your leadership. We are doing something, but we're not done yet. So the latest conversation I had and made a bunch of statements there in the 10-day fall session on capital planning, my last day was Friday, so I came back on Sunday, only to find out, okay, there's a senator here. The town did the initiative by inviting the senator here as a follow-up from our Ottawa meetings. So, okay, well, pack your bags. We're going back to Yellowknife again to meet with the two senators that are there and Premier and Cabinet. So we done that a few days ago. So we are keeping up with the campaign. And part of that consultation, things happen behind the door or in the hallways of the Legislative Assembly. So the Premier assured me and reinstated that assurance at our senators' meeting the other day by saying I made a commitment to the member of the SATU that I will have something in terms of financial relief. So the message I'm telling everybody tonight, just be patient. I'm hoping it's within the next few days that we will have a financial relief to address the problem. And what I said in my podcast last week, what is that problem? It's 6.6. That's the problem. The fly-in expenses for that fuel. But it went down to 5.8. So if we had a check today, there'd be no more problems. Things will go back to normal and we can go back to lobbying for our highway. So my message tonight is your determination is remarkable. And please have faith in your leadership. And I think I've said it numerous times here in and out of the house and in Joshua's studio there that yes, we have a problem and we are determined to have a solution. And ultimately, I think you'll see the all-season road within 5 years. That's how much faith I got, and I say it with a smile on my face. Again, thank you for coming out and showing your support. It's very admirable for me to go into the House knowing the fact that there is a large number of people behind me. Masi.
Thank you, Danny. We really appreciate that. Shannon, if I could ask Shannon Kaler to come up and speak on behalf of the Union of Northern Workers. Thank you.
So I'm Shannon Kaler. I'm actually here to speak on behalf of Gayla Thunstrom, who is the president of the Union of Northern Workers. Yes, I'm going to be looking down. So I've got speech from her. On behalf of Gayla Thunstrom, president of the Union of Northern Workers, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and showing your support today. The reason she chose me is because I am president of Local 39, which a large number of you are members of, so welcome. When Gayla traveled to Norman Wells for the GNWT ratification vote meetings in September, she heard a lot from our members who are struggling with the cost of living here in the community. She heard from members who were struggling to pay for essential food bills and food on the table. As unionized workers, lots of the members have stable, well-paying jobs. And if we're struggling, you can only imagine how hard it is for the residents who don't have that same income, or trying to make ends meet on social assistance or on pensions. People who've lived in the area for a long time are thinking about leaving because they can't afford to live here anymore. News stories about the insane cost of living are scaring away workers who would otherwise be excited to move here. A lot of our union's members in the Sawtoo are employed by healthcare and education. Our healthcare system is already on the verge of collapse, and many of our children are struggling to access the supports they need. Our small communities cannot afford to lose these workers. Winter's just beginning. Our government needs to do better. It needs to come up with short-term and long-term solutions that won't leave the residents out in the cold. The UNW supports the calls for both territorial and federal government to step up to ensure the residents of Norman Wells have access to reliable and affordable heating fuel. Thank you.
Before we get to any community member testimonials, of which we do have several that were sent in, we also have a video message from the PSAC Regional Executive Vice President of the North, Josanne Spirito, who also could not be here tonight, but did want to share some words.
Hello, I am Josanne Spirito, Regional Executive Vice President for PSAC North, and today on behalf of nearly 200 union members in your community and in solidarity with all workers and families in Norman Well, I am calling on the government of Northwest Territories to respond to the critical needs of Norman Wells residents and immediately take action to address the affordability crisis. Nobody should have to decide between heating their home and buying groceries, and nobody should have to consider using a food bank because of a government's failure to protect its citizens. Many of you have already spoken out, signed petition, and called on officials to do more. Others may be engaging in activism for the first time today, joining this rally. No matter who you are, where you work, and what your struggle looks like, I want you to know that PSAC and your fellow workers are with you. We stand with you today, and we will fight with you tomorrow. Because when the people of Norman Wells demand a better future for their community, they are demanding a better future for all of us. These are workers and families who live in the North. They stay here, they help to build our communities, and they contribute to our shared prosperity. Now their government, and in many cases their employers, is leaving them out in the cold. Workers and families shouldn't be punished for building their lives in the North, but that's what this government is doing by failing to step up right now. life is getting drastically harder for people living in smaller communities outside of Yellowknife. As the cost of food, fuel, housing, and other basic necessities continue to rise, this government needs to listen to the needs of all of its citizens. With the temperatures getting colder and life getting more expensive by the day, we can't afford to wait on this government. We know the solutions, and we need them today. On behalf of members, workers, and families, I join you in demanding for the government of the Northwest Territories to take action now.
So before we open it up to the floor for anybody that would like to speak, we do have some resident testimonials that were sent in to Josh by video for residents that wanted to be here tonight but otherwise had prior commitments and couldn't make it. So if we could, Josh, throw those up.
Hello, it's Travis Wright, president of North Red Airways. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the forum tonight as we're in Yellowknife for meetings, but thank you for having this forum to allow us to have a voice. For North Red Airways, we have great concern. We're the second largest employer in Norman Wells. We have high bills. We have 35 dwellings. We're paying $100,000 for a hangar to heat a month. I don't want these costs to go on our people of the region, so the Sawtooth region. I think that is unethical and unfair. It's ironic we live in a town where all the oil comes from, but yet we pay the highest prices across this country. I think our message to GNWT is we need your help. We need somebody to help us, the people of this region, people of Norman Wells, and the business community. Again, Norman Wells is a great place. It's getting tough to run a business there. Have a good night.
Hello, it's Ken McDermott from Blackfeather here. I wanted to just speak briefly about the challenges that our friends in Norman Wells are facing right now. Norman Wells is an incredible community. It's the regional center for the Sahtu. It provides so many essential services to the surrounding communities of Toledo, Delaney, Fort Good Hope, Colville Lake, and there's been a regional commitment to that Norman Wells dream, the amazing new health center, the capacity built there. And Norman Wells steps up. You know, this summer when Fort Good Hope had a fire situation, the evacuees were welcomed in Norman Wells despite there being no barge service, and the fuel was used to help fight that fire. And when the power generator needed to be turned on, nobody asked what the plan was about the diesel usage. It was just done. But now those decisions have had downstream consequences, and Norman Wells is in a fuel crisis, and the government and other actors, in my view, need to step in to offer some assistance to the community of Norman Wells. Our business has been operating out of Norman Wells for a long time, and we rely on our charter partners to take people on these unique expeditions, and it's not an easy place to operate out of, but it's one that has a huge heart and is essential to our continuing path to a sustainable tourism economy in the north. And our call to action is to see the government step in to ensure that there's sustainable pricing for the fuel oil and a plan to get the fuel supply back online so that Norman Wells can continue to be the driver of the local economy and the local sustainability future that we need in the north. So thanks very much.
Good evening, everyone. This is Simon. It is fantastic we're all getting together to be heard in that nonsense crisis we're facing in the Sahtu region. Financial challenges beyond the roof, beyond acceptable, but what I'm worried the most, it's the side effect. It's the quality of living. It's the mental state of the general population. It's what makes us strong. The connectivity amongst ourselves will be partially destroyed. For example, how can you justify to commute for a community event from DOT back to town when you already spend $15, $20 daily just to go to work once? Among the Satu region, it will be the same. As a company, Northright will be facing challenges, and routing and seat availability might be impacted, contributing in that isolation feeling. Hiring outsiders, hiring aviation employees is hard as well already before that crisis. And now the quality of living may be impacted. Housing may be overpacked because we gotta justify those heating costs. And also the quality and the exceptional living around here, it's accessibility of the land. And that accessibility of the land is being reduced by lots. Water level is being dropped. In the summer, traveling the river is extremely risky and difficult at some point. Plus, hunting is extremely hard on the river nowadays. So that adds on the living cost when you got to buy your meat instead providing it from the land, as the Setu has done for many years. So among the process, did we make any mistake? There was 2 barging season. There was a winter road in between. Did we make not the best decision at the time? It does not matter. Let's move forward. And what's forward? It's the crisis we're facing now. So let's not point fingers at anybody, but let's get help first, because it is a crisis. Then we can work with a long-term solution. But at this time, all the residents are extremely resilient to stand up together and be A, we need help now, and B, let's figure it out a plan, and let's make sure it doesn't happen in the near future. I hope everybody stays strong. I love you all, guys, and I am proud Satu resident, and I hope we find a solution soon. Thank you.
Hello, this is Susan Wright. I'm coming to you from Yellowknife, where I'm at the tourism conference, where we are all talking about fuel. And today I'm sad to miss this forum because I'm very passionate that this is a problem in our community, and we all need to collectively put our voice forward to get a plan in place to support the residents and the businesses. I would like to first and foremost just indicate that I'm coming to you as a resident and a concerned person within the business community, just in terms of how are we going to survive all of this and how are we going to navigate it without help. But first, before I ask for support from the GNWT, I want to address the issues I have with Imperial's pricing model. As soon as we found out the pricing that Imperial was going to be imposing on our community for fuel, we started to look for fuel elsewhere. And us, as a small company, Northright Airways, I could get the fuel cheaper. And I could get it here, and I could handle everything on my own for a lot cheaper. And that is something that we're still exploring, just trying to figure out what is best for our company and as winter kind of sets in. But what my point is that Imperial can get it cheaper. And I would like to call on Imperial to make a lasting legacy that doesn't involve tanking the economy and causing huge financial impacts on the residents within the region, because we have been through enough. We survived the 2012 conversion from natural gas to diesel. That was a $25,000 expense for most businesses, or for most residents, and much more for businesses. We lost a lot of businesses during that time, and we also lost a lot of businesses when in 2016, all of the families were moved out due to the Enbridge pipeline being compromised. So we have been through a lot. This is not what the community needs at this point in time, and we already have a huge problem with the cost of living in this community. So my call to action for Imperial is to get a better price. Do not amortize it over a long period of time, and be truthful and honest, and actually be a good neighbor and tell us exactly where did you come up with your pricing structure, and perhaps maybe can you shop around and get us a better price. My second call to action that I would like to contribute to is that the GNWT really truly needs to help us at this particular point in time, and to be very targeted in terms of who is getting the financial benefit, and give the financial benefit to those businesses and individuals who are mostly affected. Number one, heating fuel is an essential need for all heating of your home. And I believe those people who are incurring those costs, those people who own their own homes or rent, are responsible for heating fuel. We need immediate support. Right now, today, last week, last month, we need this support. Secondly, businesses need to be supported in the exact same fashion, because what we will expect is the nasty multiplier effect will come into play, and our businesses will have to recover these costs over time, and that doesn't mean anything good for our community. It just increases our cost of living, and it really makes us struggle at a time when we are already weak. So those are my 2 actions. Thank you very much for this venue and the opportunity to send in a video from afar. And I wish you all the best in your peaceful discussions about this very stressful topic. Thank you.
My name is Taylor Pace. I represent a tourism company called Canoe North Adventures that runs canoe trips and rafting trips in the Sahtu region based out of Norman Wells, and the Dachau region based out of Fort Simpson in the Northwest Territories. For years, we have built partnerships and friendships in the community of Norman Wells. We've been operating there for over 20 years. And during this time, we have deeply integrated with this community and seen how incredible it is as a place and how incredible the people are that live there. We have also recently, since COVID, seen the socioeconomic impacts that have been put on by higher prices already in the community. We have noticed a decline in the overall services available in the community, and we have noticed people and our partners, business partners and suppliers already struggling with the current situation. This recent addition of fuel to the fire by the fuel increases in Norman Wells is deeply troubling and concerning to our business. It is deeply concerning and troubling to our suppliers and friends and business partners in the community. And we are struggling to understand how and why this was allowed to happen in the community. And we are seeing that this may affect many different aspects of life for all of our business partners and all of our suppliers in the community and all of our friends in the community of Norman Wells. And we are deeply troubled by this development, and we are deeply concerned about the future impacts that this may have on our business, as it is primarily based in the Sahtu region during the summer months. And we are hoping that there is a way that the government or grassroots organizations can find a way forwards to bring an end to this crisis in an expedient way.
Really quickly, before I invite all of you to come up and share your stories, share your concerns, I just want to really quickly thank Tim so much for the generous use of the space tonight. This is the first time I've actually been in your Legion, and it is gorgeous. And that is coming from someone that lived in Inuvik for a decade. This Legion is pretty fantastic. I'm grateful that you're all here tonight. I really hope that you'll take this opportunity to come up and speak, share your stories with your fellow neighbors, your community members, your friends. Share these stories so that we can record them. Let me take them to Ottawa. I will be lobbying in 2 weeks. This is my main focus, is making sure that you have affordable heat, that you're not all going to freeze, that the government isn't going to leave you hanging like they did to the residents of Enterprise. Take the opportunity. Go see Josh in his little booth. Talk there. We're going to be putting that into a website that you'll be able to share. That'll be hopefully launched in the next couple of days. Next week? That's a couple of days. That's good. And again, thank you all so much for coming tonight. So if anybody wants to come up and share, you're more than welcome. Anybody wants to go first? If not, I know that Suzanne has a letter that she has from another resident that she could start us off, if that'll help make everybody a little more comfortable.
You have to wait while I'm talking. Please feel free to go and get started with that. This is also going to be, Frank and the council are going to be using all of this to advocate as well. And if I may, I feel like the message is, we appreciate what our representatives have been doing. There's time to talk about long-term later. We need resolution now, like today, yesterday. I don't know about you, but I've already tapped into my line of credit to start paying some bills to try and get ahead of things. And that's not right, you know, so we need help now. I do have a letter that was sent by a resident who is currently staying in Alberta that they asked me to please read. So I'm going to read that into the system so it's there. And hopefully I don't cry now on their behalf. So this is from Sharon Martin. And she is saying she'd like to address this letter to Mayor Pope and Premier Simpson, but especially to our Ottawa government officials. I include Ottawa because Mayor Pope and Premier Simpson are personally living this nightmare that has been bestowed upon us due to climate change and the never-ending delay of the construction of an all-weather road to our remote community. Ottawa officials, you have no clear idea what our community is facing to live a simple life. My family is usually back north by now after flying to Alberta for the summer to spend time with our daughter. We normally live here in Norman Wells 9 out of the 12 months, and we have proudly called it home for some time. It's actually quite funny that Ray, Ryan, and I retired north instead of south, like so many that are of our age. Presently, though, we're still in Alberta because we can't afford to come back home to live due to the soaring fuel prices. Barges were unable to deliver fuel to our community this barge season because the Great Mackenzie River was too low. Only so many semis could get through on our winter road season, which is also getting shorter due to warmer than usual winters, to deliver the fuel. When the fuel starts depleting, it has to be flown in, making it extremely expensive. Imagine owning a local airline and having to cut flights to other remote communities for people to see their families because the fuel supply is dwindling and perhaps rationing is a good idea in case of an emergency. Our home has been winterized to take it off the grid because it would cost approximately $5,000 a month to heat. My Tahoe would cost approximately $332 to fill a 91-liter tank. Norman Wells Power Corporation, or Northwest Territories Power Corporation, is asking for a 25% increase in rates, not to mention the price increase on food. I'm not the greatest at math. However, I do know that both Ray's and my government pension checks aren't meeting our cost of living expenses. This year, our family has had unexpected expenses, the ones you don't plan or budget for. Health. Last year, Ray was unable to be home with Ryan and I because he was taking cancer treatments, and it would be too expensive to fly out periodically for health checks. This year, he's developed large kidney stones, and his doctor advised him not to return home in case the stones start moving and lodge in his urinary system. He would have to immediately fly out. A return trip from our community to his kidney doctor, surgeon in Edmonton, would be just under $3,000. And if Ray is going out, so are Ryan and myself to be with him. So that's $9,000. Ray has one more hormone treatment scheduled to ward off another possible round of cancer, so it would be essential for him to fly out again, this time by himself, but nevertheless, another $3,000. Canadian North, without notice, cut their flights into Norman Wells in 2023, so if those kidney stones don't time it right, Ray would have to be medevaced out of here, and I don't want to think what that expense would be. Canadian North has increased baggage rates as well. There has been a 114% increase for a second bag weighing 50 pounds and a 500% increase on baggage, 51 pounds and over, since April 2023. Ottawa, you may wonder, why would anyone bring back 2 or 3 bags? It's because of limited supplies in the remote communities, and it's cheaper for us to purchase and bring them back ourselves, although that's debatable right now. So, take away the misfortune of the expenses incurred to my family due to health issues and concentrate on what everyone in Norman Wells is being faced with. Soaring fuel prices to heat our homes, fuel for our vehicles to get to work, and don't forget when the temperatures reach the high -30s to -50s, some vehicles are running 24/7 so they don't freeze up. Do we choose to stay warm instead of buying food, or do we choose to be homeless so that we can feed our families? It actually angers me when I see on the local news that our Ottawa officials are visiting the North. To me, they're not. It is true that Yellowknife is also considered the North, However, in my opinion, as a true North resident, if you're able to drive to a northern community on a paved highway from the capital of Alberta, you're not North. When you can hop on an airplane for a 45-minute flight from our remote community to Yellowknife to discover that you can purchase almond milk for $4 in Yellowknife as compared to $14 in Norman Wells, you're not experiencing or visiting the true North. These officials need to experience the high cost of flights to visit our beautiful remote community, and out of their own pockets, purchase and enjoy a delicious large 14-inch loaded pizza for $49 as compared to a large 15-inch deluxe pizza at a popular pizzeria in Yellowknife for $35. Out of their own pockets, they need to fuel up the vehicle they're using at $3.66 a liter. Not to mention the hotel rate, which undoubtedly will see a significant increase due to soaring fuel prices to heat the building. This is the reality of the true North. You need to experience this to understand our cry for help, our cry to declare a state of emergency, and quickly. Why did my family choose to live in Norman Wells, which is 145 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle, instead of staying south? It's because it's beautiful and tranquil beyond your imagination. The whole community helps each other when a crisis arises. We make time for each other. We ask on our community Facebook page whether anyone has spare Tylenol because the store is run out and a baby's running a fever, or if anyone has seen little Johnny playing, tell him to get home. It's so refreshing to see and experience this. Don't get me wrong, we do have our differences, but when push comes to shove, we put those differences aside and we help each other. I'm so proud to call it my home, and right now, I really miss it. I'm Sharon Martin.
Anybody else wants to come on up? Please feel free. Take the opportunity. Your neighbors want to hear. We want to hear what you have to say. That's why we're here.
Or write it down and I can read it for you.
Or send Suzanne an email. She's happy to read it. Tiny little room. You can do the tiny room. You don't have to come up here. It's okay. I get it. Before I had this job, I hated talking in front of people too. But yeah, tiny room if you want to talk. I know there is someone in there now, but please feel free. Also, before you leave, feel free to come and grab a t-shirt or a pin or a hat. I did bring stuff. Everyone loves swag. And also, if anyone has any questions or concerns, feel free to come and chat with me. I'll be here for a while. I'm not leaving anywhere. I'm here all night. Or if you don't want that, you can email me, president@ntfl.ca. It's pretty easy to find. I'm happy to chat. I'll leave it open. I'll stand over there. I'll turn away. And if anybody wants to come up, please feel free. Otherwise, thank you all so much for coming tonight. I think this speaks volumes to the solidarity and the resilience and strength that your community has. And we will fix this. We will get through this. You will get through this. And I'm happy to use my voice in any way I can to help. Yeah. I know it's scary. Yeah. Please talk. You're good. I promise it's good.
I've taught maybe a quarter of the people in this room public speaking, so I should try. Hi, if you don't know me, my name is Sarah Kelly, and I've been in this region for 14 beautiful years. This is my 11th year in Norman Wells, and I own the smallest house in town. And when I heard Sarah speaking about the Federation of Labor asking us, or thinking about our security and our dignity, I thought, right now I feel like I have neither. And I am sad, and I don't know about you, but the first thing I do every single morning is I check Cabin Radio, and then I check CBC North, and I'm so grateful that they're both in the room, but then I have a bit of a panic attack because all of a sudden we haven't been talked about in days. And I kind of feel like yesterday's news, even though it's today's bills. And so I don't have a car. You guys know I walk to work every day. And I live in the smallest house, and I love being an auntie, but I don't have kiddos of my own. And so if I'm freaking out with those things that I have in my life, I can only imagine what people with houses that are more than 600 square feet must be feeling. I'm so grateful that we are all here. You know, you come up when Toronto has no teaching jobs and you're told if you want to work, you have to go north. There's been jobs down south for 10 years now, and I'm here because I want to be here. And I can't believe that the home that I want to be in, I may not be able to stay in because SO is doing their thing. So I'm just desperate with all of you, and I just am so grateful for all of you. And like, you're my home. Like, this is our community, and I'm scared shitless. And I'm sorry I swore in front of the kiddos, but I know your mom. And I'm terrified, but I'm terrified with you. So if you see me walking on the road, wave. And hopefully we get something really cool soon. Hopefully we get great news. I'm so grateful for everyone who's been going to Ottawa. Like, I do feel like we have strong advocacy, but I loved hearing people say we don't just need long-term, we need support yesterday. So I know Norman Well's strong, but like, Jesus, Norman Well's tired. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Anybody? Come on. Come on up, guys. It's safe. It is a safe place, I promise. Safe space. I'll turn my back. You want to talk, Suze? I know you like to. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I guess basically that's the end of anything sort of scripted and organized this evening. So please, if you want to come up anytime and just even speak into the microphone, it will capture what you're saying, as even if people aren't looking, because that's how Josh has it set up. But yeah, feel free to, have discussions, maybe think about what else you might want to do, line up to spend some quiet time with Josh, and please help yourself to some NTFL swag. That's, an extra layer you can wear to help keep yourselves warm. Hang out for a bit. Hopefully we all took advantage of being able to turn down the heat in our homes while we came here, so let's max that out. And yeah, just give your neighbor a hug, and let's all be nice to each other and stay together and fight this thing out. I think we can. Thanks, guys.
Guys, don't leave. We have door prizes. Door prizes are great. Bill, are you coming to talk?
I am going to come and talk.
Bill's going to talk.
So, guys, I'd just like to say I would like to thank the guys, Suzanne and Sarah Jane, for putting all this on. And again, I really want to thank Frank and the council and everything they are doing for the town, and Danny too. You guys are trying to fight to keep our prices down. We're all going to be a struggle. Hopefully we all help each other out, and we try and stay strong here. And the more and more we complain and the more voices that are heard, I think the more hopefully we get done. We can email our MPs, we can email the leaders, bomb them on Facebook, bomb them on Twitter, bomb them any way you can to kind of just say this is a situation we have. If everybody keeps complaining, hopefully sooner or later somebody will listen. That's all we can say, but I'd like to thank council for council and Danny and you ladies for coming up and putting all this together. Thanks.